So we all pretty much know that the iPhone 14s, the latest iPhones of every single year, are always going to be the best devices Apple ever makes. But the iPhone XS has been and kind of has grown into probably one of the more interesting iPhones Apple has ever made. I mean, when it first came out, it didn't really seem like that big of an upgrade coming from the iPhone X. If I'm being honest, it, looked the same. Really, the biggest difference here was the XR and XS Max. Those iPhones being included that year. Other than that, the iPhone X was pretty much a, kind of the same phone for the most part as the iPhone XS. But then that kind of brings us to today. The iPhone XS, in my opinion, is one of the more interesting phones, mostly because of iOS versions and iOS updates. From the iPhone X to the iPhone XS, we had the Apple A11 Bionic on the iPhone X. The XS had the Apple A12 Bionic. We also got 1 extra gigabyte of RAM, up to 4 gigabytes. That was pretty much the same amount of RAM we had all the way up until like the iPhone 13s. So for the base models of those, we were having pretty much the same amount of RAM within them. So that was another thing that's actually very interesting here. But the craziest thing was, ever since iOS 15, Apple has made they've just tried so hard to make it so the iPhone XS seems like a way better or just way more powerful phone that can house so many more features than the iPhone X. With iOS 15, Apple dropped, live text. That was a really cool feature. Weirdly enough, the iPhone X couldn't do it, but the iPhone XS could. Within iOS 16, there have been so many features, and I talked about this like crazy when iOS 16 came out. There were tons and tons of features that were just disregarded on the iPhone X that were completely supported on the iPhone XS. And from one iPhone to the other, if we go to the XS to the 11, the 11 to the 12, there was not an iPhone that, basically gave you so many more features with a 1-year upgrade than going from an iPhone X to an iPhone XS. So that was absolutely crazy. I wasn't really even too sure what was going on there. But that brings us to today. The iPhone XS, from when it first came out, not the biggest fan of it, but now that it's, depreciated a ton in the used market in terms of a price tag, the fact that this iPhone is, readily available all over the place in the used market. I mean, you can find these things all day for less than $300. You can find XS Maxes for less than $300. I would say about $350 to $300. The iPhone XS, I think, has grown into a very interesting phone that could potentially be worth it to a lot of people. Although I wasn't a fan of the battery size being decreased going from the 10 to the XS, I think the iPhone XS has a lot of legs to stand on, and even though it's, not the first iPhone I'd recommend, I kind of do think it's like a fairly underrated iPhone for the most part, which brings us to today. I think if you own an iPhone XS, as always, I would highly recommend keeping it. I think it's a very, very good iPhone for sure, but it is kind of interesting when you have something like the iPhone, 10 that looks so similar to the iPhone XS. I don't know. I think if you have an iPhone X, keep it, but the iPhone XS is a very underrated iPhone in my opinion. So in terms of that kind of covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that means so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.